Hi everyone, I am Sri Prakash. You can call me Sri. So let's begin with today's webinar. Today's webinar is on how to become a cloud solutions architect. Okay, can you all hear me? Okay,
Yes.
thank you. So let's move on. And on the left side, we have some tabs which will guide us where we are in our agenda. So agenda has these few steps. First, we'll look at the objective. Why are we conducting such a webinar? Then we look at the essentials that one candidate or one techie should have in order to be ready for employment. Some basic essentials. And these two objectives have already been covered in my previous webinar, but for completeness, I'm just quickly going through those few steps. Then we'll get into what is cloud and then move on with the topic of the today's, then we'll move on to today's webinar content. After that, we will also look at future similar webinars that we are planning in coming days. Okay. Then we will have few minutes for Q&A as well. And then if there are any other issues to be addressed, if we have time, we can take them up as well. Okay, so once again, welcome to this webinar. I have Abhijit and Gayatri with me, and they will also be coming in during their time slots. Okay, so let's begin. So, quick introduction to Gayatri. Gayatri has got 12 plus years of cloud experience. She is working as cloud architect. And Abhijit also has 12 plus years of experience and also is a cloud architect. Okay. So then now let's look at the objectives of this webinar. First, today's webinar is on cloud solutions architect and the possibilities and how to prepare oneself to be one. So if you look at the top highest paying job opportunities, we'll notice that in many places, see if you take top items, you will notice that in this list itself, you see 5 top highest paying areas are from cloud. So cloud expertise will give you the maximum possibilities of employment. Okay. So now, but there is no shortcut to this. But what I want to tell you here is, if you systematically work hard, anything is possible. Now, he is someone whom I follow. He is David Goggins. He has written a book, You Can't Hurt Me. And he has got multiple Guinness book records. And so in between today's webinar also, I'll be putting some of his sayings, quotes, and pictures, okay, which can definitely help us in our journey. So now what happens with the present situation that we are in, the selection process also has changed. So the campus selection or companies coming to some location for employment may change, may not happen. So you need to be ready for employment. You need to find companies, or you need to be ready or prepare your portfolio in such a way that companies can easily locate you. So that is another thing that you need to address. So we'll see what they are. So most of the interviews are going to be companies interviewing through some video calls, etc. So you need to be ready to present yourselves well over your remote communication mechanism, and also have your online profiles, portfolios, like in LinkedIn, be fully prepared and polished. Okay, now let's look at the essentials to be a cloud professional. When I say cloud professional, it can be cloud solutions architect, cloud architect, anything related to cloud technologies. Okay, so now next slide is about Linux. This is the Linux logo. And as of this year, Jan, 100% of supercomputers use Linux operating system. So this is just to highlight the importance of Linux. So complete fluency with Linux operating system will really help you in your journey. Okay. And so if someone asks you, can internet exist without Linux? Absolutely no. Everything runs on top of Linux operating system, or maximum number of things happen on top of Linux OS. So for example, 96.3% of top 1 million web servers are running Linux. And only the remainder just 3.7 are shared by other operating systems or vendors. So for example, all these top social media or popular platforms are all using Linux as their basic operating system for running their services. So do I need to highlight the importance of mastering Linux? So this is the most important thing. And you know what? You need to only understand 20% of Linux. So personally now I am working with Linux for last 24 years, but still I may know only say 15 or 20% of Linux, but that is good enough for my journey. So you don't need to know everything about Linux, but at least 20% you should be comfortable. So the bare necessities in order to be a cloud professional are good knowledge of Linux, then Windows operating system, and programming languages like Linux command line programming or shell programming or bash scripting. Then Windows scripting will also help. Then Python, of course, and PHP also will help you. Then you also need to clearly understand how internet works, web servers, what is HTTP, how HTTP protocol is used to communicate to remote servers. Then basics of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript knowledge also will help you in your journey. Then another thing is you need to know how to use the SSH protocol to talk to remote servers. It is just like a terminal where you log in to remote machines, and also Windows remote desktop protocol also can help you at times. And apart from these, you also need to have some idea about how databases work. That is SQL Server or SQL commands or SQL commands, plus what is NoSQL databases. So these are some of the essentials that can help you. And then anytime after you are out of the campus, you have to ensure that you are 100% ready for interviews. That is, your portfolio should have all the necessary additional experiences and exercises that you have done, additional learnings that you have done, and keep it ready so that any opportunities come in your way, you are ready to approach, ready to apply. Okay, and here I must tell you, there are no shortcuts whatsoever to any place worth going. So personally, I will not recommend any shortcuts. So it is systematic approach that can get you the place that is worth going. Okay. And another thing, through discipline only comes freedom. So there is no shortcut. I said there is no shortcut. Then there is the systematic approach that is essential. So every day spend few minutes, maybe 20, 30 minutes to learn something new, to do some new experiments. So technology is constantly evolving, so that we also need to constantly be up to date. Okay, now we are slightly deviating and going to something that takes us to through the background of how cloud evolved, or how cloud became to be, or how cloud is so popular now. So Gayatri and Abhijit will talk about these two areas, what is hardware and what is software. Yes.
Yes, thanks, Sri. Hi, Abhijit
Yeah,
here.
thanks.
So let me briefly tell you, like how what Sri mentioned. We are going to cover, or I'm going to cover, a brief idea or give you a brief idea about why cloud came into existence. So in order to do that, we have to go back a few years and see what are the things that make computers work. So we have hardware and software. So all of you know about hardware and software. So what is hardware? Hardware means whatever whatever tools that you have available, like the physical components that are available, like your hard drive or RAM or your mouse. All those things are hardwares. So you will be using those physical components to interact, or that is a machine that you will be interacting with. Now, when it comes to software, you have the programs. So the operating system is a program, and it is a software. So whatever makes you available, whatever makes you eligible to communicate or interact with those hardware components is the software, and the software enables the communication between the hardware components also. So basically, hardware and software together makes your computer work. Okay, so now here there is an issue. Like, say, if you want to have multiple options or multiple machines available for you to practice or perform some things, traditionally you had to purchase and set up different machines. So that means different hardware components and the software components that comes along with that hardware. But that is where virtualization will come into play, because it is not at all feasible. Like if you need 10 machines, it is not feasible for you to purchase 10 machines and then do the exercises, because you may be just doing that for some testing purpose, or you may be performing some evaluation, or just for fun. It is not worth spending money to purchase hardwares and those things in order to see whether something works or not. So that is where virtualization will come into play. Virtualization means, instead of replicating, or instead of having multiple hardware components available, the hardware component also is converted into a software. So whatever software, like the operating system that is running on top of that virtual machines, will think that they're working on actual physical machines, whereas in reality they'll be working on a virtual environment where the virtualization tool or the software which will act as the virtualization tool will be emulating the hardware. So the operating system will think that it is interacting with the actual hardware, but in reality it will be an emulated hardware provided by the virtualization tools. And because of this, you don't have to purchase any hardware. You will be able to create n number of machines within the same hardware without having to purchase a new hardware. Okay, and this provided the foundation for cloud environment, and that Gayatri will explain.
Hi, I'm Gayatri, and let me just quickly tell you how the cloud really changed the way people work with work in the IT industry. So it really revolutionized the way people started thinking of infrastructure. So Abhijit also already told you about how virtualization works and how virtualization allows you to use the same physical hardware to have multiple machines. Now, with virtualization, your physical hardware became, or your machine became independent of your physical hardware. So you really took it out, took your machine, separated your machine and your physical hardware. Now, with the cloud, you really didn't even care about the hardware at all. You don't really care about the hardware. Everything is software. So if you want to set up a machine, you are executing software commands. If you want additional storage, you're executing software commands. If you want to set up the environment for an application, you're executing commands. So you don't really care about where the physical hardware actually is. So now, even an infrastructure professional became a developer. Everybody was working with software. So set up an infrastructure, you're working with software. To use the infrastructure, you're obviously working with software. So everybody was working with software. And this independence gave the infrastructure professionals the freedom to think out of the box. So now they were not limited with the hardware or thinking in terms of the physical machine. Now they could think in terms of expanding and using unlimited hardware. So hardware was no longer limitation. So the latest applications that you would see right now, almost everything that you can think of is hosted on the cloud. So the physical hardware was no longer a limitation to any of the applications. So all the popular applications that you can think of, they're all in the cloud. In fact, if you see the three most popular cloud service providers right now are Google Cloud Platform, Amazon AWS, and Microsoft Azure. So with cloud, you have huge opportunities. So what do you think what do you think will be the advantage of if you have cloud, if you have access to a cloud platform, or if your organization has access to a cloud platform? What do you think would be the advantages, or what do you think would be the opportunities that you would have if you have access to such a powerful platform? So for example, Rohit is saying that he'll have unlimited resources. So yeah, so resource is no longer a limitation. That's absolutely correct. So now physical resource is no longer a limitation when you design your infrastructure or when you design your project, because with the cloud, it seems like you have an unlimited pool of resources. And Pranav is saying that resources are always available, which is also true. So if any machine goes down, you can quickly just spin up a new machine and your resources are always available. So from the application point of view, the services and the hardware resources are always available. So like I said, the three top players are Google Cloud Platform, AWS, and Microsoft Azure. Yes. So Rekha says that disaster management or recovery from disaster becomes easier. So that is also true, because again, physical infrastructure is no longer a limitation and can be provisioned easily and dynamically. So with the cloud, you have all these endless opportunities and endless possibilities that you can use for your application. Now Shri will take you through how the evolution of hardware from bare metal and so on. So you can take it over, Shri. Yeah, you can.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Gayatri and Abhijit. So let me continue from where Abhijit and Gayatri has left. Now let's look at how the evolution is going on. Okay, now with cloud, it's not stopping, it is continuing. So let's see what do we mean by that. Okay, so just a second. Yeah. Okay, so now the picture that you see here is a picture of a typical physical computer. We call it bare metal. So anytime you hear the term bare metal, you should consider it as a physical machine. When I say machine, it could be a laptop, but normally we refer this as a physical server, which could be an internet cloud or internet providers rack system where they have thousands of such physical machines are kept, and each of those machines will be running some operating system and will run some applications like Hotmail to anything those days. Now, then from there, from bare metal, things evolved and started shared machines like Abhijit and Gayatri were mentioning. One physical hardware was shared by software simulation. So one hardware can be split virtually to behave like multiple physical machines. Then, internet hosting providers started offering this as virtual private servers, where one physical machine can be given to multiple customers, and each of those customers can use the machine as if they own the entire machine. Okay, so that was made possible with the help of virtualization technology or something like a hypervisor technology. So one bare metal machine became multiple virtual machines, but it did not stop there. Now, say last 5-6 years, from virtual machines, it moved on to containers, and Docker Container is one of the most popular container platform at this time. And what is container? Container is much more versatile, much more portable, much more lighter version of a virtual machine. That is all you need to consider. So from bare metal, we have virtual machines. From virtual machines, we have containers. Containers are lighter, portable, uh, uh, tiny instances of virtual machines. So all practical purposes, containers work like virtual machine. Then from containers, technology again moved on. Using containers, we have another tool which is extremely popular and extremely sophisticated, that is called Kubernetes. Kubernetes, see now what happened, bare metal, we split bare metal into multiple virtual machines so that many users can share one bare metal. Then from bare metal, we created containers where tiny applications can run, filling up a virtual machine. So these containers allowed us to efficiently fill a machine. But then large applications, it began with Google search engine, etc. One machine was not enough to cater to the end user. You need to again join many machines to act like one huge machine. That was made possible with Kubernetes. So Kubernetes again will make all these tiny containers into one big, huge operating system. Like Google runs around 2 billion containers, launch every week, around 2 billion containers, Docker containers, to support its cloud applications like Gmail, Google search, etc. Okay, so that is the migration of the operating system platform. That is from bare metal to virtual machine to containers and to Kubernetes. Kubernetes is a container orchestrating platform. Now let us look at the software development cycle. Goal of any software, let's look at the goal. Goal is you develop an application which has to be deployed or given to some end user. So an application will have a team of developers. It could be thousands of developers building an application, and then it will be passed on to a large number of professionals, cloud professionals, who will be running these applications, who will be maintaining these applications, who will be securing these applications, etc. Okay. Okay. And so we have developers, operators. Now, cloud professionals are also needed in this automation. Whenever developers make some changes or make some new coding addition or correction, it is the automation that makes this change reach the end user or the operators. So here, cloud professionals are in great demand to help in this automation. And here again, Kubernetes also will play a role. So your cloud expertise will range from understanding Amazon, AWS, Google Cloud Platform, Microsoft Azure, all these cloud providers. You can take up any one. In fact, Amazon is number one, Microsoft is number two. Take any one of them and understand it well, and then you immediately become employable. After that, you can further build your expertise into automation and fine-tuning these infrastructure. Okay, there is a question. Does cloud professionals need to know programming from Rekha? See, yes and no. See, 90% of the activities do not need programming, but your programming aptitude can help in simplifying the automation process. So when we interview professionals, etc., we check their programming skills. They understand the conditions? Do they understand the looping and variables, etc., etc.? So those logical thinking, like a programmer, will help you in simplifying the automation. At the end of the day, like Gayatri mentioned, everything has become software. So essentially, you are defining entire cloud infrastructure, automation as software, but it's not as complicated as typical C or C++ or Java or Python programming. It is rather straightforward programming, but programming knowledge will help, or it is required. That is what I would say. Yes, thank you. Okay, now let's quickly look at what is Kubernetes. And see, now here I must tell you, as a cloud professional, you can also take up Docker and Kubernetes alone, ignoring the cloud providers like Amazon, Google, or Microsoft. If you know Kubernetes well itself, you become employable. This is one of the extremely popular job market, that is Kubernetes professional. And Kubernetes is a tool or a platform or a container orchestration mechanism which will help in auto healing. That is, when your infrastructure goes down, it can repair itself. Another is auto scaling. That is, depending on the load or depending on the time, your infrastructure can become big or small, so that you can optimize the performance as well as reduce the cost. Then also load balancing, so that depending on the load fluctuation, it can distribute the traffic across multiple servers behind a tool or mechanism called load balancing. We will learn, or you will learn, as a part of your cloud solutions architect. Then portability. Kubernetes also will give you the portability between cloud providers. You don't need to tie yourself down to Amazon or Microsoft Azure or Google Compute Platform. Once your platform is deployed using Kubernetes, it becomes portable. Entire application can be ported across cloud providers. And Kubernetes also gives you the possibility of rolling back. That is, you make some change, deploy the change, that is, release the change to the end user, and you find that there is a bug, you can roll back to your previous version of your software. It also gives you the isolation needed between applications. So applications can run side by side and it can run securely. Okay, now let's look at what is cloud solutions architect's role can be. That is, if you are deciding to master a cloud provider like Amazon, Azure, or Google Compute Cloud, you will be designing an infrastructure like this. But when you look at a diagram like this, don't feel intimidated. It is not complicated. If you approach systematically, you will understand this very well. And you will design something like this. This is a mission critical application designed in such a way that it can self-heal. And the availability of the application uptime is phenomenal using Amazon Cloud or Amazon Web Services. Okay. Now, what are the things a cloud solutions architect should know? Or a typical cloud provider will have these many services, like compute services, like Gayatri shared one picture earlier. A cloud provider will have compute services which will be offering virtual machines, which you can sign up and create virtual machines using software definition. Through cloud provider, You can also create network interfaces, networks. You can provision storage solutions. You can attach this storage to your compute instances. You can also have auto scaling mechanisms through the cloud provider, and cloud provider will also offer its services using three different distinct ways. One is, the first one should be infrastructure as service. That is, cloud provider will be giving you basics like it will provide you with a server instance, which will be a virtual machine, where you will choose the operating system that you need and install all the applications that you need, and then your end user application as well, so that it works. That is called infrastructure as service. Next is platform as a service, where cloud provider will give you a ready platform like a database, where you can provision the database and start using the database for your application. So platform as a service will come with a ready virtual machine preloaded with an operating system and preloaded with a platform that you need, maybe a web server or a Java application server. So you can get the entire thing readily configured and secured by the provider, which you can directly use. All you need to do is to upload your software. Now, the third thing that cloud provider can offer is software as a service. That is what we see without even knowing, that Google's Gmail, Google Drive, all these things, Microsoft 365, Office 365, all these are software as a service solution from cloud providers. And cloud provider also gives you the opportunity to script and create scripted platforms. So platform software or infrastructure as code, IAC, is possible because all the cloud providers will let you use bash scripts or Python or any other programming language to create infrastructure. So these are some of the things that you will need to learn as a part of your becoming a cloud solutions architect. Okay, so next, let's look at some of the things that these top cloud providers offer. So we are comparing Amazon Web Services, Microsoft Azure, and Google Cloud Platform. These are top 3 cloud providers. Okay, there is a question. Platform as a service, like a Java environment. The question is from Deva. Like a Java environment, platform as a service. Yes, it is something like a Java virtual environment or a Java runtime environment, where you will just upload your var or a jar archive, which will be expanded and executed. In the same way, platform as a service will provide you with an environment which is readily usable. Okay, great. Thanks for the question. And so now these are some of the top services these top cloud providers give us, but there are hundreds of more services. But the top ones are listed here. One is virtual server, which we saw, which fall under compute solutions. Then we have platform as a service, where we give a pre-installed platform for your applications. So Amazon's platform as a service is called Elastic Beanstalk, then Microsoft Cloud Services, and Google's App Engine. Then we have serverless solutions, where you don't even need a virtual machine. Supposing, for instance, you just need to execute a function. Why should you have an operating system? Why should you have a platform? All that you need is some mechanism by which you can upload your function and get it executed with some input values, and you are interested in its output. So most of these cloud providers provide a function as a service. or a serverless computing mechanism. Amazon is called Lambda, and Microsoft Azure Functions, and Google's Cloud Functions. Then we have Docker container solution provided by all. Then of course Kubernetes has been adopted by all the three providers. In fact, without Kubernetes, these providers will not exist. Kubernetes has become number one container orchestration platform currently in use, and that is going to stay like that for next maybe 10 or 15 or more years. So you have to learn Kubernetes as a part of this journey. Then there are storage mechanisms and archival, etc., etc. So these are some of the top solutions these providers offer. And there is a question: serverless like one-time execution? Yes, it can be one-time execution, or it can also be something where you upload a function and use it whenever you want it. You can invoke the function whenever you need it. For instance, you have a web page, which is a static web page. Normally, there is no change happening in the web page, but that web page also has a form where users might enter something and submit. During that time, you need to invoke some remote endpoint where you need to send these submitted values, which can be computed and maybe sent or stored into a database or further processed. So those occasions, you may just need a function available with an endpoint. In such cases, you can use these such function as a service, okay, serverless solution. So it can be a function which is essentially one-time execution, you are right, Rohit, but it can also be saved in some location which can be used whenever you need it. Okay, so thank you. Let's look at what is next. So to summarize, let's see, in order to be a cloud professional, okay, so say cloud professional, you need to know Linux well. When I say well, you should be using Linux almost on a day-to-day basis. So what do? You can install Docker and maybe run a Docker container to run basic Linux commands on your desktop itself, or have a free cloud provider's account where you create your account and create an instance, log in and learn, use it to learn Linux commands. And after you have learned, you shut down the instance so that you will not be billed unnecessarily. Most of these cloud providers give free account for your initial usage. Then you also need to learn Git version control, because like Abhijit and Gayatri mentioned, everything has become software. And in order to properly maintain software, you must have a versioning mechanism so that you don't lose in your work. So rudimentary understanding of version control will also help. Next is, you need to go deep into one of the top cloud provider. It can be Amazon, Azure, or Google Compute Platform, but I will recommend Amazon or Microsoft Azure. They are top two providers. At this time, I have 4 Amazon certification, and Gayatri and Abhijit are also highly experienced Amazon solutions architects. So we also offer, as a part of our services, an internship where we hire interns and train them in these platforms. Okay. So, but we have a rigorous screening process where we check the aptitude these candidates have in order to take this risk, because it is an adventure. Cloud solutions architect is a highly adventurous journey. But you will be providing some platform where applications are running which are being used by thousands of users live. It's not like a software developer's work. Software developers' work uh, will be tested and deployed. So there will be some screening happening before it's deployed. Whereas in infrastructure, you are the one who are expected to uh, create the infrastructure, and you are the ones who will be testing it and running it. So the security, its capabilities, etc., are all your responsibility. Okay, so in order to become a cloud professional, my recommendation is every day dedicate few minutes, maybe 10, 20 or 30 minutes to learn these technologies. They all have free account where you can log in and learn and experiment. So that is the only way to grow. So another thing is, there is no excuse after you're out of the campus, or you have lost your job, or you come back due to some lockdown situation, and you are looking for employment. You have to ensure that you spend these times learning and upgrading yourself. Okay, that is the only way moving forward. Okay, and we also have a series of webinars planned. This is the link, that is sri.cc/webinars.html, where we will be listing the dates of our future webinars. Okay, so we had one webinar. We had 3 webinars this month. Similarly, next month also we'll have more webinars. If you visit this link, you will know about our webinars. Okay, how about payments for these? These cloud providers offer free accounts. Is that your question, Rohit? Can you? How to pay for the service? Okay, see, these cloud providers, the service they offer, or even before these cloud providers came in, see, early 2000, etc., when you want to host an application in internet, you used to order you needed to order a dedicated server, and they used to take up to 24 hours to ready the server, and you need to pay a setup fee for the server, and then monthly fee for the server. Whether you use the server or whether you don't use, you have to have the dedicated fee. It's like renting an apartment. Whether you stay there or whether you keep it locked, you have to pay the rent. But with cloud providers, it has changed. It has become pay as you go mechanism, where only when you use it, you pay. Disk space, how much space you use, that much only you pay. Traffic, how much traffic you use, that much only you need to pay. And the computation, how many CPUs, how much memory, etc., that you provision, and how long you keep these services on or active, that much only you need to pay. So it is pay as you go mechanism. So that is made the cost effectiveness phenomenal, and that also made the elasticity effective. Otherwise, if you are paying for 100 servers, whether you use it or don't use it, it doesn't make any difference. But now you can make it 2 servers or 10,000 servers. So you can scale automatically through your cloud solutions architect's capability. You will be creating that elastic platform, which will be changing its size and changing the cost that you need to pay. So actually the usage will determine the amount that you need to pay. So which cloud platform should we learn? A question from Rekha. All 3? No, you don't need to learn all 3. You need to learn one well and understand the features of other 2 and get employed. And once you're employed, and if that company has any other operating system, any other provider in use, you can then study the other 2 providers. It is good to go deep into one provider instead of learning all the 3, because knowing one itself will make you employable. Any other question? If not, I'll move on to the essential to be number one. So now we are addressing possibilities to be employed in one of the highest paying job areas. So you also need to ensure that you are completely preparing yourself to be available or ready for it. Okay. So what are the essential? You need to know what you don't know. You can't pretend. These days, if the interviewer asks you one question and based on your reply, he or she will know whether you know it or you don't know it. So you can't fake. You need to really know the topic. And here, what I must emphasize is you need to have project experience. Okay, so just by learning online video tutorial may not give you that experience or confidence needed to be capable of facing interviews or facing real life situations. So now, harder you work, luckier you get. So there is no shortcut to be lucky. The only way to be lucky is work hard, work systematic. Another slide. You have to be odd to be number one. Okay, so in order to be number one, be odd. Use every possibility to learn something new. Even the lockdown, the work from home scenarios, all these things, it's time that you save in your traveling. You can use it to learn something new. Okay, so to summarize, you need to have excellent LinkedIn profile and connections. You must have a GitHub account where you can upload your work so that when someone asks you, can you demonstrate, where do you store your work, you can give the link to your GitHub account and they can see your work. You must have cloud account and hands-on experiments. You must have done hands-on experiments. Okay, just by watching videos is not enough. Okay, and you should have sufficient LinkedIn connection. So if you're associated with us, we can also help you. Like we have thousands, like over 30,000 professionals with our LinkedIn connection. So we can also help you with sharing your profile through our connections so that others know about your existence and expertise. Then you can also have certification from cloud providers, and you can also write articles. There are very popular blogging platforms like Medium, where you can write your articles so that that can immensely highlight your capabilities. And projects, the project that you do, you make sure that you add them to your portfolio. Well, nice summary of your projects. Maybe a YouTube video of you presenting the project can also be added to your profile. And you can also, as you gain expertise, answer Stack Overflow questions. That will also help you in your online presence, authentic online presence. So make sure that as a part of this learning journey, you continue to update your profile. Okay. Again, let me reiterate, through discipline, we get freedom. Okay. So if you have any other questions, we can take it up now. And here, I must also tell you, these are not easy areas, and there is no comfort zone. You have to be comfortable in being uncomfortable. That is the way to be number one and stay number one. Okay, so be number one and stay number one. Okay, so that is me. So now I must tell you, I have 40 plus years of technology experience. I'm constantly learning. Abhijit and Gayatri are also constantly learning, and I am motivating them to constantly learn. That is the only way to stay ahead. So at this time, I have 4 Amazon certifications, including both the professional certification, and I am also a runner. This year, Jan, just before the lockdown, I completed a Mumbai Marathon. Okay, so that is me running Mumbai Marathon. finishing Mumbai Marathon. Do you need anything to have networking knowledge to understand? Not much. You know, networking is completely different, and networking was needed during bare metal area. But with cloud provider, networking also has become software, and there are templates that can help you begin the networking. So you don't really need to know IP tables or routing, etc., etc. They're all available with a few clicks. Okay, and especially with Docker and Kubernetes, you don't need to know networking at all, because they're all available as a part of those services. So you don't need to worry about IP addressing and its mechanism really. Okay, any other questions? Okay, main difference between Docker and Kubernetes from Rohit. See, Docker is a efficient virtual machine. Think of Docker as a highly efficient virtual machine. But there is one more addition with Docker. Docker is highly portable. You know, why did Java become popular? Can anyone tell? C and C++ existed, and in fact, C and C++ worked more efficiently. But how did Java replaced literally most of the previous programming languages, including COBOL and etc.? Of course, it is object-oriented, correct? Yes, there is a question. There is an answer from Deva. Environment independence. Java was the first programming platform which helped us make it run, be it Linux, be it Windows, be it Unix. Any platform that had Java virtual machine could run your compiled Java application. Now, here is a container or a virtual machine platform that worked just like Java. So any platform, any operating system that had or that has Docker environment, your containerized application can run. So that is Docker. So Docker is a containerization mechanism by which you can get a light virtual machine like environment, which is portable. And what is Kubernetes? Kubernetes makes these containers work together as a giant machine. Okay, so virtual machine made machine smaller and smaller and highly portable with containers, and made it tiny units. But Kubernetes can chain all these tiny units and become a huge, help you to make it a huge machine. So Kubernetes is a reverse mechanism by which you can orchestrate these small beads into a big design. So we call it a container orchestration platform. So you can use Kubernetes to run large applications. In fact, everything that you see, Gmail, Google search engine, all these are being managed by Kubernetes, which is managing millions or billions of Docker containers. Any other questions? Okay, how to choose a cloud provider? See, now that is a difficult question. Now, there is no risk. You try out these cloud providers and see what works best in terms of performance and money. Run it for a month, run it for a week for your application and see how it compares. That is what I say. But Amazon is the oldest and the most popular one. So I would recommend trying out Amazon and then maybe migrate to Azure and see how it works in terms of costing. And then maybe Google Compute Platform. For Kubernetes, Google Compute Platform is also very popular because Kubernetes is from Google. So Kubernetes has that extra advantage that Kubernetes from Google has maybe something extra provided by Google or extra support from Google in terms of its service. Anything else? Kubernetes required for a cloud professional? Question from Rohit. My recommendation is presently yes. If this question was maybe 2 years ago, I would have said no. But now Kubernetes is more important because you don't want to tie yourself to Amazon or Azure or Google Compute Cloud. So knowing Kubernetes will help you to be cloud provider independent. So most of these organizations these days are expecting the cloud solutions architect to be having Kubernetes expertise as well. Okay. Anything else? Okay. If there are no other questions, we can conclude. Now we also time to time release free YouTube videos. Sri.cc/YT will have the links to our tutorials. Then our future webinars are available, and here is our feedback link, sri.cc/feedback. Please give your feedback so we can also fine tune our webinars, and maybe the way of conducting the webinar, time duration, etc. can also be improved over these months. Okay, now another thing, please share these links with your friends. We also have two very important, very popular internship programs. So we have a 4 to 6 month internship program where we hire freshers or professionals wanting change in profession. We hire them, train them starting from Linux servers to be a DevOps professional or to be a cloud professional. When I say to be, we give them the knowledge as well as the experience to be employable. So we make them do projects and closely evaluate them and make sure that they are really understanding and they are employment ready. So here maybe Gayatri and Abhijit can also add something to these webinars, because we three are grooming these professionals in spending our time with them, closely guiding them and training and watching and monitoring and assisting them. Anything you want to add here in this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Our main goal with this internship program is to make you employable. Like nowadays, the main issue is employers are looking for someone who has some project experience. So they want to directly add a person to a project, or with some minimum training, they should be able to perform in the production environment and within their environment. So it is a major factor nowadays that those who are going for an interview to join a particular organization should have some experience, because they are competing with like experienced professionals. So they need to have their own portfolio. So whatever they have done, they should be able to showcase. Then they should be able to perform some projects, etc., on that particular topic. So all those things will be required for someone to join an organization nowadays. So that is why we introduce this internship, so that we can empower those candidates to be more eligible for employment. That is our main goal here.
Yeah. And Gayatri, you want to add?
Yeah, so these internships are not really theory oriented. Most of the we will be covering the theory, but most of the theories will be backed with a lot of practicals, examples, exercises that you need to complete on your own. So you would need to dedicate some amount of time. So these are not light courses that you can just do on the side. These are courses that really require you to put in time and effort to complete the exercises. Many of the exercises will be very similar to the real scenarios that you will be encountering in if you were to join an organization. So these are real scenarios that you will be encountering. Many of the projects that you will be doing as part of the internship will be real projects. So they require you to really put in some effort in finding solutions, understanding the concepts, and delivering at the end of each exercise or each session. So you would really need to put in a lot of effort and dedicate some time to these internships.
Perfect.
Yes.
So if there are no more questions, we can conclude. So thank you all for your participation, questions,
Thank you.
and see you again in our next webinar. Okay.
Thank
So
you.
thank
Bye.
you, Vijay. Thank you, Gayatri.
Yeah. Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay. Bye bye. Bye bye.